This is the TriSwim Coach Podcast, where the most difficult leg of the triathlon becomes your friend, leaving your struggles and your competition behind you. TriSwimCoach.com, helping you to laugh at the water.
Welcome to TriSwim Coach. This is Kevin, and this is episode number 119. And in just a minute, I have an interview with Dominic Latella of Swimbox. If you want to hear the first episode with Coach Dominic, just go back to number 111, and the title is Swim Outside the Box. And this will be his second appearance on the TriSwim Coach Podcast. And we're going to talk about something that is, I believe, revolutionary to swimming in general, but especially to triathlon swimming, and that is breathing. And it's not your typical talk about breathing, so it's going to involve a lot of in-depth discussion on how breathing can help your swimming, how breathing can help your triathlon. And we'll go through some techniques that will help you right away that you can try immediately. So stay tuned for that. It's a really exciting podcast. I can't wait for people to hear it and start trying it and using it. I think you're going to get a lot out of it. So I had recorded a show between the last one that was released and this one, and it somehow got destroyed. And I have no idea how, but I recorded a show on ocean swimming techniques, because the ocean is kind of a whole other beast from the pool or even lakes and rivers and things like that. There's a lot that you have to know. And we did an article years ago about this, and it was done by a friend of mine who was a lifeguard here in Southern California and had a lot of really great tips to give on ocean swimming. And the article actually, it was a two-parter, and somehow the second part disappeared. But I found a copy of it, an old email. I had a copy of the second part of this article. So we had 8 tips on ocean swimming. That podcast is gone, but I'm going to redo it next time. So this podcast, number 119, I think is so important that I want to get this out there as soon as possible. One last thing, if you like this show, please give us a rating and review on iTunes. That would be much appreciated. You can just go to iTunes and search for the TriSwim Coach Podcast, and then you click on rating and review, and then we'll read it on the next show. So without further ado, here's my interview with Dominic Latella. All right. Hey, Dominic. How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
Good. Welcome back to the podcast. It's great to have you on again for the second time.
Yeah. How long has it been? It feels like it's flown by since the last time we talked. But.
Yeah, it's been a few months, and I actually just checked the stats, and your podcast was the most downloaded podcast I've had this year in 2017. So that's
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, this one's going to be of all time.
Yeah. Let's set our sights high. I think so. I think I'm really excited to talk to you today about some of the stuff you've been doing, and especially the breathing. You know, it's just like that's the constant topic that comes up over and over. Sinking legs and breathing. We were talking about this earlier, but sinking legs and breathing are the two common questions that we get all the time. And it seems like even though both of us have been talking about all the solutions to this for a while, it seems like the thing that people ask, and it's almost like whatever we're saying, it might work a little bit, but then people still are struggling.
Yeah. So I would say, I mean, the first time I came on was because of breathing stuff, because you had talked to Andy, and, you know, I helped him with some Wim Hof stuff, getting ready for Lake Placid last year. And so it's just really interesting that we're still talking about breathing stuff. And it's such a topic that is just so deep. And once you kind of travel down the rabbit hole of breathing, it's really hard to get out of that rabbit hole. And since the last time we spoke, that's basically all I've done. Is if I'm not coaching, I am just doing research and reading about breathing and what it's doing to people, how it affects people. And so much so that with the strength and conditioning coach that we work with, he actually went down the rabbit hole with me. We've been going down the rabbit hole hand in hand together.
Yeah. And
we'll trade notes together. And he recommended that I take this course, PRI, which is Postural Restoration Institute. And the course that I took with them specifically was postural respiratory. So how your breath affects your posture, and how your posture is going to affect your breath. Doing all the research I've been doing on top of that certification to really change the way I approach how people breathe in swimming, and how people should be breathing in order to correct body posture, and specifically their sinking legs. So I think one of the biggest issues as a swim coach is communicating. Right? Yeah. Whatever I say to you, you're going to filter in your own way. And so I think for a lot of swim coaches, we have to articulate something in a very sort of black and white manner where we don't have a lot of space to have nuance. People are coming in and off the walls very quickly. And even within lessons, we want to make things simple for people to understand. So I know, I've been coaching a long time now. I started coaching about 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. And pretty much 12 years ago, I learned the cue, pull your belly button into your spine, right? Mm-hmm. Really common thing that you hear on pull decks. You hear it in yoga. You hear it in Pilates. You hear it all over the place. And so that's the cue that I've been using for the last 12 years to help people try to help their posture while they were swimming.
Right.
And I think it's actually detrimental to people swimming, doing more and more research and experimenting with it. And that I was having clients come in who were, recreational triathletes. So they're sitting at a desk all day long. They are on a bike for, 100 miles on the weekend, or they're running, 12, 15 miles on the weekend. And then they don't understand why their hip flexors are really tight and their pelvis is tilted in the wrong way, right? Mm-hmm. All these things support sort of a huge sort of curvature in their lower back, and they have these mobility issues. And I was trying to figure out, well, what's the best way to fix that? And so I would tell them my normal protocol, which is, like squeeze your belly button in or tilt your pelvis, or, think about, if you had a belt on, drawing your belt buckle to your chin. And all that really it did help straighten their lower back out, but it also made their legs sink more because they had tight hips. So at some point I have to determine, okay, I'm not just a swim coach. I'm a movement coach. I want to figure out how can someone make the movements I'm asking them to make so that they can be a better swimmer. So I took on the task of how does someone correct an anterior pelvis tilt or lordosis? Do you know what I mean by anterior pelvis tilt? You know what that looks like?
Yeah. Do you want to just explain that to me?
The easiest way to explain it, someone's walking around and they look like they have like Beyonce butt and they're just butt out, but that's their normal posture, right? That shouldn't be their normal posture. So doing all the research that I could do, I found out that there was no real solution to it. And the best solution I came across was watching that person breathe. And how does that person actually breathe in their day-to-day life? And how someone's breathing is going to affect how they stand, and how they're standing on land is going to affect, obviously, what their posture is going to be like in the water.
Yeah.
So kind of like going down this deep rabbit hole of breathing stuff, it is 100% how someone breathes that's going to change their body posture.
Yeah.
So I'll no longer tell any of my clients for swimming to engage their core or to pull their belly button into their spine.
Wow.
So what we do, and we're making a course, an online course on this as well. So it is complicated and it is nuanced, but it's something that everyone can do and can work on. And we're finding really great results, even for people that don't have, tight hip flexors or an anterior pelvis tilt. Like, we're finding that even just people that have pretty good body posture, if we work on their breathing with our course, we're calling it the foundational breathing method, we're finding that they're getting more efficient and obviously getting faster. So, I've seen one of my clients go from a 2:15 pace, and she showed me her Garmin the other day, just coincidentally to show me something else. And I noticed that her pace is a 1:36.
Wow.
Long course meters.
That's amazing.
So something obviously has changed for the positive there. And it was mostly her breathing. So to kind of get into the course a little bit, or the protocols for the breathing, what we start to do is try to learn how to, for lack of a better term, belly breathe. But it's a little bit more than just belly breathing. So when someone fills up their belly with air, they're using their diaphragm to cause pressure in their abdominal wall, basically. Right? So when someone is told to squeeze their belly button into their spine, that's actually kind of shutting down muscles. Mm-hmm. And it's quite limiting to your limbs as well. Your limbs can't generate as much movement or force when you're squeezing just that singular muscle into your spine. And it's actually really hard to breathe that way too.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever tried it.
Yeah.
It's maintainable. You maybe can swim like a 25, maybe a little bit more with it, and then kind of falls apart.
Right.
And then you have to kind of try to reset it, and it's going to fall apart really quickly again. So what we're trying to do is use your diaphragm to cause pressure through your abdominal wall and cause tension, core tension, not core engagement, through your abdominal wall. So what's happening is as people fill up down low, it's elongating their vertebrae in their lower back, and it's giving them greater buoyancy too, because now they have air where they're sinking. So that is sort of like that foundational breath. It causes this awesome body posture, and then they also start floating better. So it really works great for more muscular guys that have a tendency to have sinking legs. It works really well. So when people fill up down there, they have to then figure out, well, how do they maintain that and swim, which is a whole nother ball game, right? But what people start to realize and figure out is, even though we're setting that tension to the abdominal wall with your breath, it's not held by your breath. Once you kind of set it, you can leave it there. You can keep that sort of slightly engaged. And it kind of goes with how I think about swimming in general, where swimming's like this weird sport where you're kind of engaged, kind of not engaged, kind of tense, kind of not tense, right? It's like this weird, like, I don't know, oxymoron of a sport.
Yeah.
So you can't be too rigid, but you can't be too relaxed, basically. And so it goes with that same mentality. It's been really interesting to kind of like work my way through this with people. So once they figure out how to set that foundational breath, and it can be quite difficult for some people because they're not used to diaphragmatic breathing.
Right.
And I could speak to one of my clients who came to see me with thoracic outlet syndrome, which is a fancy way of saying that he had tingly fingers when he swam. So that tingle in his fingers was coming from his neck, basically. So every time he took a breath, so I'll give you a brief little story of him. Every time he swam a fast, like 200 yards, his fingers would start to tingle. He would rest for, like, just kick easy on his back and calm his breathing down for like another 100. Tingles would go away. He would swim for 200 yards. His tingles would come back. Yeah. That was a very obvious sort of story to me that there's something going on with his breathing, right? So when you start swimming faster, you're going to breathe more, right? You're going to breathe here. So I watched him on land just breathing. And every time he took a breath, his shoulders came up towards his ears. It was so obvious that he was only breathing through his upper body and through his rib cage and not through his diaphragm, that I brought him through our protocols, and he was figuring it out. It was very hard for him. We had to kind of like cheat it a little bit, and you can cheat it a little bit. You can cheat your ribs wanting to kind of lift up by forcing yourself to slouch, right? So if you inhale, your ribs externally rotate, right? They kind of get into a position where every single mom in America would say that you have good posture. Yeah. All right. So think about that, right? So when you have good posture, it looks like your ribs are kind of sticking out. Well, that might not really be actually good posture. So if you force your ribs down and try to inhale, they don't really have a place to go. And so the air just fills up down low. All right. So that was sort of where we had to work with him on like making sure his ribs are down as he filled up. And then once he was able to do that, it took him lots of practice because it was really hard for him to change the way that he breathes. He's been swimming his entire life, basically. But we were able to kind of figure it out a little bit. Now he can swim pretty much continuously without any tingles in his fingers. It's only if he starts sprinting, like hardcore sprinting, it's those tingles, which makes sense, right? You start going fast again, you're going to revert back to kind of your natural habit, the habit that you've developed over 20 years of swimming or plus. Yeah. So
let me just interrupt you there. So how much of that work are you doing on land, and then how much of it are you doing in the pool?
I would say that it's probably 60% to 70% on land. Okay. And then we take it to the pool and just apply everything that we learned on land in the pool. And kind of once you get it, you start figuring it out. It takes a couple of times for some people to really understand it and to figure it out and go and have those like epiphany moments where they go, oh, that makes complete sense. And oh, that actually feels kind of comfortable to swim and breathe that way. Yeah. So it's a lot of nuance involved. And that's why for me, like I said, I've been coaching for 12 years. I don't know any coach right now in swimming that is thinking of the breath the way that I'm thinking of the breath.
Right.
And I want to be able to share it with every single coach that I can, because there's no reason for people to be swimming with their backs hurting, which is a really common problem.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason for people to give up on swimming because they felt like their legs sank. Right.
Right.
My mission when I became a swim coach was to help everyone swim that wanted to swim. And if someone's legs sink, I wanted to find a solution for that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. This is awesome stuff. Now, I'm just thinking of some people, it seems like there's some people that are more natural than others.
Yeah.
What do you attribute that to? Do you think that those people are breathing better, or is it something else?
It's something else. It's hard to say breathing better, right?
Right.
We all breathe, but if we consider that we live in a very biased world, we breathe differently based on whatever activity we're doing, right? When you're sitting, you're going to be breathe differently than if you were laying down on your stomach. There's gravity involved. There's pressure of the ground involved. If you're jogging versus when you're running and sprinting, you're going to be breathing differently. So what I find is typically the older someone gets, the harder it is for them to change their breathing, because now their breath has changed their posture. And that postural change is very hard to get back. And you don't ever get a substantial change back. But what you get is the ability to adapt, to say, okay, I'm swimming now, so this is how I'm supposed to be breathing when I swim, versus, I'm running now, and this is how I breathe when I run. Right. So keeping in mind that you are going to be breathing differently for different activities. And it's just really, you never know why or what's going to happen when you start watching someone breathe. I've seen people who I thought would be terrible at it do a great job, and vice versa. Typically, like when I get like a teenager in, they're pretty quick to pick it up versus, someone in their 40s might be a little slower to pick it up. But they're still capable of making those changes. So it's definitely possible for everybody. And I wouldn't recommend it for beginners necessarily. I think and when I say beginners, I guess I really mean like learn to swim, right? When we teach learn to swim, it's always like inhale through your mouth, exhale through your nose, and trickle air out, right? So once someone kind of gets past that point and they are more like a beginner to intermediate swimmer, that's when I would really focus on this.
Right.
Because the part of this that is different for people in the water is when they exhale and how much they're exhaling. So once they kind of learn how to do their foundational breath on land, we work on trying to figure out how little air can they let out without letting their back sink down again, but also not going into oxygen debt, right?
Yeah.
So we don't want them to be starved of oxygen. So they have to figure that out. And, it's different for everybody. It's whatever they perceive to be whatever number I'm asking them to let out. And I basically just watch and see, okay, your back barely moved that time. Maybe we can go with that. Whatever number that was for you, let's try it in full. Sometimes that number is off and we have to kind of let a little bit more air out. So it's really specific to that person. And then once we're in the pool, so say 50% is the number that I usually use with people because it seems to resonate. Like, so if you filled up your foundational breath and I asked you, okay, now let out 50% of your air, right? That's all you get to let out. That means you're only going to be taking that small amount of air back in. And I think for a lot of people, they have never been taught or told that you are not supposed to exhale everything.
Right.
Which is, kind of bizarre to me, but coaches don't go there. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And so when they're only letting out 50%, that means they're going to have to be breathing more frequently. So breathing every 3 strokes or every 4 strokes or every 5 strokes, it's just not going to work. You're going to go into oxygen debt if you wait too long. So that's, always a point of controversy with my clients because they go, oh, well, I read online I have to breathe every 3 strokes. Which I get. I understand bilateral breathing. This is a thing, and you need to know how to breathe on both sides. What I'm saying is it's smarter to breathe more frequently but be able to breathe more frequently on both sides.
Right. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Now, can you talk about some of the outcomes of this? Like, what are someone that's like a triathlete or beginner triathlete, intermediate, whatever? What kinds of things should they expect if they start incorporating their breathing practice, like you're describing, in terms of their, how fast they're going, how much energy they have left over, like at the end of a swim, and those kind of things?
Yeah. So I would say the comment that I hear the most is, "Oh my God, it's so much easier to swim." So most people can almost instantly feel their lower back come up to the surface, and we don't have to necessarily change their kick at all. For a lot of the times, they already have somewhat of a minimal kick anyway. So it's just a matter of changing that posture, and they go, "Okay, well now I'm not pulling harder at all. I'm not working harder at all." But yet they're swimming. So I'm in the endless pool all the time. They're swimming at a faster pace, even though I haven't changed the current speed. So I have to speed them up all the time when we're learning this. And so everyone pretty much always notices their efficiency goes through the roof. Like swimming in general just gets way easier for them. And if they're diligent clients, they will check their times frequently. Not everyone pays attention to clocks, even though they mostly wear watches and have it right in their face. But yeah, I think for the more A-type clients who are checking their times consistently, recognize that the better they get at this breathing method, they are getting faster with not even worrying about how hard they're pulling. So and that's the ultimate goal, really. Yeah.
This is awesome. I mean, I feel like this is a huge breakthrough in swimming, especially for the triathletes and just anyone that's kind of starting something in swimming in their lives. I mean, I think this is something that could really almost shortcut the whole process, because people spend so long, even years. I mean, I know people around here in San Diego, they've been at this, the triathlon thing for years, and their swim, it might get marginally better from year to year, but it's really just kind of like a really slow process. But if they could do this, this breathing work, I think that would, it would, no matter how old they are, I think it would really accelerate the progress.
Yeah. So going back to that client who I said was a 215 yards pace, and I just saw it was a 136 and 50 meters pace. She's 59 years old. Yeah. She started swimming competitively for triathlon maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. All right. So for someone to drop that amount of time, it's been just shy or just over a year that we've been working together. For someone to drop that amount of time in a year is spectacular. I mean, it really, for me, solidifies that what I'm doing is not just helping, but just superior to what I used to do. And so her tri coach, she does remote coaching with a tri coach in Colorado. He's a fantastic coach and a great guy. He actually comes and visits every once in a while. And he took me aside during one of her lessons and said that he had never seen anyone get as fast as she has gotten in as little time. Wow. So that meant a lot to me as well, to say that it's not just me noticing this, like her tri coach is actually noticing this as well. But I mean, I see it across the board almost daily, because almost daily I work on this with people.
That's awesome. Yeah. Now I want to go back a little bit and just talk about the background of this. You mentioned the Postural Respiratory Institute, and then you also mentioned Wim Hof. And I wanted to talk about like how those things are part of this and what you learned in each of those areas.
So with Wim Hof, I think there's some interesting stuff going on right now with breathing. As you know, it's very, very popular. And the last time we spoke, I think it was popular then. And I think it's like 100 times more popular now. People that I would never suspect would know Wim Hof talk to me about Wim Hof. So it's great. I mean, it's fantastic. People are really catching on to it.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely an interesting character, and he's brought about this idea that breathing is important in all aspects of life. And it's not just sitting there and breathing, but actually there's actual exercises that he has people do to improve their ability to maintain oxygen in their blood and things like that. And then he has people get adapted to cold. And that's one thing that he's known for, is he goes in these ice cold lakes and places that Like there was actually a video, and I think I might have mentioned this on the last podcast. It was number 111 when we talked about this. Yep. But he takes people out in like the canals in Amsterdam, where it's like the water in the winter is just absolutely freezing. But through breathing, through this breathing technique, he gets people to actually get into this water and not feel that painful cold that you think of when you think of this ice cold water. And he's done things like swam under the ice. He has the record for the longest swim under ice, and he goes for, I don't know how long it is, but
60 meters, I believe.
Yeah. And he goes out in a hole, and they cut a hole in the ice. He goes down, and then he comes up another. And then he's done like the Mount Everest hike in his shorts and t-shirt, or my Mount Everest climb, and things like that. And he's all of this is done through breathing. He can withstand the cold through breathing. And then that it also translates into other parts of life where you kind of are able to withstand more. And he has clinics on this, and there's an app that I use and things like that. But
yeah, so I use it mostly with my clients for almost like a meditation purposes, or an opportunity to help them understand their breathing a little bit more.
Yeah,
especially when people have anxiety about breathing in general, especially when they're in the water. But he's done an amazing job of getting that message out. And because I've been doing so much research on breathing, I have come across, and you have as well, I know, some other breathing concepts that are actually counter Wim Hof. Mm-hmm. The oxygen advantage is the one that I know that you have talked about before. And I'm blanking on it's a Russian scientist who did all this legwork that the oxygen advantage has kind of stolen from, but I wouldn't say stolen, but has modified. And his concepts are the exact opposite.
Yeah.
His concepts are, how little can you breathe? And that for the most part, people are over oxygenated. So it's really interesting to think about that there's these two conflicting thoughts on breathing.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to what I said earlier, that our world is biased. Mm-hmm. Like, we can breathe differently for different situations, and we should be. So maybe our goal shouldn't be walking around breathing heavy like Wim Hof, but maybe our goal should be walking around and seeing how little air we can actually have day in and day out, like through normal activities. Mm-hmm. So, one of the sort of mindsets that I try to keep is, because as an instructor, I spend a lot of time talking, and that means I'm doing a lot of mouth breathing as well. Mm-hmm. So I spend my quiet time focused on making sure when I'm breathing, I'm using my nose only. And then I sort of pretend like I have a feather on my top lip, and I try to see how little air I can let out and let in. So it's really gentle breathing. And I will say that when I do that, it definitely relaxes me in a much different way than when I do Wim Hof. Wim Hof also relaxes me, but it feels differently. I don't know how to describe it.
Okay.
So it's worth kind of like experimenting with and playing around with. But the oxygen advantage point of view is, if you learn how to breathe with less air, then your VO2 max will increase.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's kind of what Andrew was saying on the podcast I did with him several episodes ago, which is how I found out about you. But he was saying that one of the things that Wim Hof taught him was how to swim without air, like not getting in that panic state where it's like, oh, I don't have air, I need air. And like, he was able to kind of overcome that through the Wim Hof method. Yeah.
And so it's interesting how, like, what people draw from it. I think one of the learning points that I like is when someone is going hypoxic, right, during that Wim Hof method, they're taking in lots of air, or sorry, not hypoxic, hyperventilating. Mm-hmm. They're taking in a ton of air. They get lightheaded. They get really dizzy. And then they exhale and they hold their breath. They don't inhale again, and they see how long they go. There's these periods of time during that breath hold where you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna pass out. I feel so dizzy. Mm-hmm. And then it passes, and then you feel normal, and it feels really good.
Yeah.
And then you get past that point, and then you go hypoxic, and you go, oh my God, I need air again.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that's a really good learning moment for people to go, oh, I know what it feels like when I get too much air now. This is what it feels like when I'm use that oxygen, and this is what it feels like when I need oxygen. Mm-hmm. So I think there can be really good learning moments in Wim Hof. So it's been very helpful to use. I haven't really used the concepts from oxygen advantage with my clients at all. I mean, I'm still researching and practicing and experimenting with it. So I don't see much use for it, but there was a really great exercise to help people learn how to use their diaphragm. Mm-hmm. So basically when people aren't used to diaphragmatic breathing, their diaphragms get stiff and they get really hard to use actually. And well, how do you tell someone to use their diaphragm? I mean, it's not like something, right. It's not like squeezing your left hand, So what the exercise is you take in a casual breath through your nose and you let a casual breath out. You pinch your nose. So you make sure you're not inhaling, you make sure you're not exhaling. And then you try to exhale and inhale. Like you mimic the movements of your exhale and your inhale. Mm-hmm. And it actually gets your diaphragm moving. It's kind of a weird little experiment. So if anyone's listening, don't try to do that while you drive, please. But I know when someone here says something, try this exercise, they try it immediately. Don't try it immediately. Try it when you get home. But it's actually a really good exercise. And that's one of the better things I've taken away from that resource. So with the PRI stuff, going back to your question, mm-hmm. I used that to help gain people's mobility back, which has been really, really helpful. And one of my clients, after we did our first PRI session together, it's just all dry land. We don't do anything in the water. And the best I can describe it would be positional breathing, right? So putting people in positions, making them fire muscles and relax muscles that they might be overusing, and then having them breathe. They felt like the first time they did their PRI session, they felt like they could breathe again. Like all of a sudden they had a easier time breathing. So that was great to see. Wasn't my desired effect. The desired effect with PRI is really to gain back mobility. So
when you say gain back mobility, can you describe that a little more?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've done a lot of research about stretching and flexibility and mobility. And in my mind, for swimming, it is more important to have flexibility and mobility than it is to have strength. Mm-hmm. If you don't have that flexibility or mobility to access the strength that you have, it doesn't really matter that you have that strength. And that's what we see all the time in guys like these muscular guys that do triathlon that have sinking legs. That means their legs are really strong and powerful, but their hip flexors are probably really tight and their back extenders are probably overworking. And so they can't actually access their hamstrings and their glutes, even though they're probably really strong. So that's where PRI comes in, and PRI is about kind of taking the underlying structures like your pelvis, your rib cage, your shoulder blades, taking those structures and making sure that they're in the correct positions for you to actually be flexible. So that's an incredibly important thing to do. If I ask you to stretch out your pec minor, which is nearly impossible to stretch, it wouldn't matter. Even if you could stretch it, it wouldn't matter if we didn't change the way that you're sort of rotated through your rib cage or your pelvis. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of attacking a flexibility issue through mobility and through an underlying structure of your skeleton. So it's been helpful for me. Like I said before, if I'm asking someone to make a movement that they can't make, well, then I have to become a movement coach. I have to teach them how to move better. And so that's what PRI is. It's my opportunity to teach them how to move better. It's been working really, really well so far. And it's oddly, it's been helping my swimmers run better.
Yeah, there you go.
It's been funny to get that feedback. I have a couple of ultramarathon runners that are also my swim clients, and they don't have any pain all of a sudden, and their run times are back to what they were 5 years ago.
Wow.
So it's been really, really cool to witness how it affects not just their swimming, but other activities. And I had a couple of people say that it's really helped with their cycling as well. So
I'm sure. I mean, this is awesome for swim, bike, run. It doesn't really matter almost. I mean, swimming is the most difficult technically, so that's a good place to start with it. But I think, I definitely would see this improving all three. And also, I wonder if it sounds like it's a good injury prevention method. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. So PRIs, when I went to the course, they were shocked that it was a swim coach that was taking the course, because no one that was teaching the course there that day could remember a time that they met a swim coach at one of these courses, because the course is usually taken by physical therapists and strength and conditioning coaches. So it's always used as an opportunity for injury prevention or to correct an injury. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And what I plan on doing is in the off season with a lot of my clients is to try to do a lot more dry land and PRI exercises with them in the off season. So when we start getting into the actual season, they'll be swimming more as opposed to doing dry land exercises. So yeah, that's what we'll see. But every time I work with one of my swimmers, I love my clients because they'll pretty much go with me anywhere I take them. And they'll always be in the middle of an exercise and go, how does this help my swimming? And it's not really about helping their swimming as much as it's about just helping them move better and breathe better. So it's just really cool to think about how your breathing affects your posture, because you have respiratory muscles that you probably don't even realize are respiratory muscles. So one of the coolest things I think about as a respiratory muscle is your tricep. How's your tricep helping you breathe? Well, it attaches to your shoulder blade, and your shoulder blade is attaching to your mid trap, your trap, and all these other muscles all that interconnect that help lift your rib cage. Same thing with your hamstrings. No one thinks of their hamstrings as a respiratory muscle, or their back extenders as a respiratory muscle, but they're absolutely respiratory muscles that get overused or underused or not utilized. And then people kind of fall into these postures that are going to end up in injury or prevent them from actually doing whatever they want to do. So it's been really neat.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I've been teaching for years is the high elbow catch. And I know you teach that as well. There's a coach here that I know that he puts out the articles and I think maybe even videos on why you shouldn't try to do the high elbow catch. And it's funny because it's like the exact opposite of what so many people teach. And I'm wondering if possibly he's frustrated because it's hard for people to get that. I mean, it's not something that you could just have a beginner jump in and start having them do high elbow catch right away and get it. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that and on how this could help with getting better at swimming with elbows high in the water.
So it depends on what you mean by high elbow catch.
Yeah.
And I'll clarify for myself, and what I like to teach is your elbows should be higher than your hands, right? So that could be considered a high elbow catch, right? It's higher than my hand, high elbow catch. But what I don't like to teach or say is a vertical forearm. Yeah. Because that usually ends up in shoulder injury for sure. And I think that vertical forearm concept is something that was really, really coached hard in the early 2000s. And now what we're seeing is that same sort of movement through your arm, but with your hand slightly more inward. So if you can conceptualize, if someone's swimming towards you underwater, it should look like they're doing like greater than, less than signs with their catch.
Yeah. Right.
So their elbows would be pointing to the sides of the pool. Their hand would be somewhere between their nose line and their shoulder line, versus outside of their shoulder line. Right. Yeah. So if you're swimming with your arm or your hand outside of that shoulder line, you're very likely going to injure your shoulders. And it's also just a very, very weak position. It's a false sense of speed that people feel when they're out there. Yeah. Because you're in a weak posture, it feels like there's a lot of resistance there, but it's not true. It's not there. Yeah. It's easily explained by asking someone to do a wide grip pull-up versus a shoulder width pull-up. Right. It's a lot easier to do that shoulder width pull-up versus a wide grip. And it's the same way in the water. It really is. And we're kind of constructed to move that way. But with the PRI piece specifically, if you think about how your shoulder blades work, they glide up and down your rib cage. And in order to do a proper catch, your shoulder blade has to be as high up on your rib cage. And when I say high up, I mean towards like your earlobe. Like that high up. How high up can you get your shoulder blade? Has to be up in order to catch properly. Because if your shoulder blade is down, then your elbow doesn't really have a place to move forward, and then you can't actually generate a paddle with your forearm. And I hope people can kind of visualize what I'm saying. And I almost think of it as when I am entering the water, so I'm ending my recovery, my shoulder blade is going as far forward on that rib cage as possible. And I want to, as I'm catching, it almost feels like my shoulder blade's going to tip over my shoulder blade. That's how far forward I want it to go.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. But you also have a course. I wanted you to talk a little bit more about your course that you put together.
So we're editing the final videos of the course. And the course should be done by the first week of August. So
great. That's
what we're hoping. And once it's out, I'll send you the link, and maybe we can put it in the podcast description, or we can figure out however way. I want people to see it, basically. And what we're doing in that course is the exact protocol that I do with all of my clients that I teach this to. So we spend a good amount of time in that course on land, working on the breathing process, learning how to fill up that foundational breath, learning how to keep those maintenance breaths all on land. We talk about how to cheat it a little bit if you have a hard time doing it, how to make sure you fill up down low when you're standing up, and how you would do it before you start swimming. We have a couple of different troubleshooting positions that we're going to be sharing in the course with people. And then we go through those protocols of what you do in the water. We include workouts, like a 6-week training plan that is specific to what people should be doing with each workout. Mm-hmm. We have videos of all this stuff. We have dry land exercises for people to do to help make it easier for them to achieve that foundational breath while they're swimming. So we worked with our strength and conditioning coach to make those exercises and those videos. And we have a 6-week program for dry land as well, incorporated with that 6-week swimming program. And then we have our strength and conditioning coach explaining all of the science behind it, so that people understand that this just isn't, made up out of thin air. There's actual science to support this. And we have gone really deep into research to understand exactly what's going on here when we do this, to make sure that it's not causing any problems.
Right.
For instance, I never once researched pull your belly button into your spine, and I used it for 12 years.
Yeah.
So that's bad coaching on my part. So I'm making up for it.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds really awesome. Yeah, and so we put together an offer for listeners of this podcast, and it's a special offer because I really am excited about this program, and I think it's going to make a huge difference in people's ability to swim, and not just, especially with triathlons, because you have so much to think about with biking and running after swimming, and most people that listen to this show, I would say, are not really coming from a swimming background. So any advantage they can get is it would be really, really helpful. So I'm really a believer in this. And Dominic works with me, and I know he does an amazing job. I consider him one of the top coaches in the U.S. And so I have no problem, totally endorsing this course. And so we have an offer that we put together, and it's going to be 10% off if you go to the URL it's theswimbox.com/TriSwimCoach. Really easy to remember. And you can just pick the course up there, and you'll get 10% off and their regular price. And that's going to last to, what did we say, at the end of August?
Yeah, let's do the end of August.
End of August 2017, if you're listening to this sometime off in the future.
Good call.
Yeah.
Yeah, and share it with your friends. If you're listening to this podcast and that we're giving you a discount, share it with your friends so that they can also get the discount. And when you're at the Swimbox website, I'm happy to answer any questions about this breathing stuff. So shoot me an email and we can talk. I want an open dialogue about this stuff, because I learn a lot from these conversations, and I'm hoping to share this information with people so that it's not controversial. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but it seems almost controversial to ask people not to engage their core anymore. So
Oh, everything that's new is going to be controversial. So that makes total sense.
Yeah.
But,
and in the future, what I'm really looking forward to doing is not just making this course and putting it out there. We're going to be updating it as more information comes in. Mm-hmm. So once you buy that course, you'll get those updates too. So, different exercises for people to work on, maybe different troubleshooting movements or positions to be in to help with it. And I want to be available to anyone that wants to know more. So send me an email, please. I'm happy to answer questions.
That's awesome. Yeah. And we'll be at some point, I'm looking forward to putting this together in a whole package so we can offer the TriSwim Coach, the TriSwim Success package with this breathing course, because I think it's a great combination. If you already are a customer of ours, I think picking this one up is just going to help you that much more. And then the new people, we'll have that at some point in the future. We'll have, kind of, you can get both together, but this is, I think, even if you're just starting out, this is a good place to start as well. So,
yeah. And then who knows, maybe we can set up some clinics, across the country and teach this to people live. That'd be a lot of fun.
That's exactly. And by the way, just for listeners, so if you are a member of TriSwim Success and you are part of our All Access Pass, you get access to Dominic. So he basically is doing our stroke reviews. So we have the option to send in your video of yourself, and he will give you a thorough stroke review and tell you what to work on and everything. So that's another advantage of TriSwim Success. And not to try to, promote too many things here, because we want to talk more about the breathing, but that's how we kind of work together.
Yeah, and I love doing those video analysis. I mean, it's like great to be able to help people in that way, from all over the place. So it's really fun. So.
Awesome. And we'll have the link in the show notes. So if you're listening to this podcast, it'll be at TriSwimCoach.com. And you just go to the blog, and then you'll find this podcast is number 119. I actually I recorded a show last week, and it got destroyed somehow. So that one's going to be, I have to do it a week from now. So, but this will be 119, and you can find all the links there. And Dominic, your site is theswimbox.com. And how else can people get a hold of you if they have any questions?
We are on Instagram at swimbox or swim_box. And you can just email us from the swimbox.com website.
Cool.
Yeah. And so before we go, I just had the idea of, why don't I just talk you through sort of diaphragmatic breathing really quickly to see if you can do it.
Yeah,
and to see if you can feel that abdominal wall tension that I was talking about. So I'm assuming you're sitting right now.
I am sitting, yes.
Excellent.
I often stand when I do podcasts, so that's not always the case.
That's good. That's good too. All right. So I want you to place your fingertips kind of by your obliques. All right. And then you should be somewhat, soft right now. We're not engaging anything. So inhale through your nose. And as you inhale through your nose, you should feel your belly kind of push out, like you're filling your belly full up of air. And so if your fingertips are down on your obliques, your thumbs should basically be down by where your kidneys would be. Right. Okay. So as you inhale, you should try to feel your fingertips kind of move away from your thumbs.
Yep.
Do you feel that?
Yep.
And do you feel how that's like a tense now? That's core tension there. It's not like an engagement. It's not soft, but it's not hard either.
Yeah.
All right. Did you feel your thumbs move?
A little bit, yeah.
All right. So that's the real sign, right? Because some people can just make their belly move and they're not actually getting the full benefit of sort of 360 breathing there. So that's really important that you can do that. And good for you being able to do that without having to move your rib cage around or anything like that. If someone's trying this at home and they didn't feel that pressure against their fingertips or their thumbs, try to slouch a little bit. Try to think about sticking your sternum, and you can try this too, Kevin, right now. Try to think about your sternum, the tip of it, the xiphoid process, sticking kind of towards your spine so that you're slouchy.
Yeah. And
try that again and inhale, and you should be able to really feel it fill up.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And then conversely, if you go the opposite way with your xiphoid process, if you stick it outward towards, like, I'm assuming you're sitting in front of a computer screen. Mm-hmm. If you try to stick it outward in front of you, so now that your back is really arched, try to fill it down there. It's much harder and nearly impossible to fill up in your lower back area.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So that's where we're getting at here, is a lot of the time that people have that lower back dip while they're swimming. It's because they're taking their breath through the rib cage only and causing that same posture that you just kind of mimicked. So it's really
interesting.
Yeah, it's been really cool to mess with people's posture a little bit. And I just had a 14-year-old in who had back pain while she was swimming, and she's incredibly fast too, and crazy fast swimmer for a 14-year-old. And she had back pain while she was swimming, told her that she's allowed to slouch a little bit. And as soon as I said that, her mom was standing right next to me. She like shot her eyes over at her mom, like, listen to that, I get to slouch. It's really always a fun time to tell people they get to slouch a little bit while they swim.
Yeah. And there's a famous coach, will remain nameless, but used to teach this method of, it was called press your buoy. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think so.
It was like basically pushing your chest out. And I never taught this, but I remember learning.
Yes. I know what you're saying. Go ahead.
Yeah, it press your chest out, and that was somehow supposed to make you more, kind of slip through the water more easily. And
yeah.
I just never, I tried, because I tried to do it myself, and I just never felt right. And so this is sort of like validating vindicating what I had thought originally.
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Your lungs are already in the water if you're swimming freestyle. You don't need to expand them, expose them to the front of you, right?
Yeah.
That's what would happen if you do that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I remember growing up swimming and being told to do that as well. And their explanation was, it's more like a boat.
Yeah, that's right.
Just silly. We're not boats.
Yeah.
So shouldn't be swimming like a boat. The boats don't swim. So, but yeah, that's just like that sort of basic start to the foundational breathing method there. And I think people can, if they just can even play around with that while they're sitting in the car, they can probably start taking that knowledge and see if they can apply it to their actual swimming.
Right.
So
cool. Well, this has been awesome, Dominic. I think we'll probably just end it right there. But we just want to give out that URL one more time. If you want to pick up the breathing course at 10% off, they're gonna have this available through August 31st. The discount will be available through August 31st. And the URL again is theswimbox.com/TriSwim Coach. And any closing thoughts?
Just be mindful of how you're breathing. Think about, when are you exhaling, right? So you shouldn't be exhaling immediately as you get your face back in the water. And just, I would say, experiment. Don't be afraid to question what I'm saying. Don't be afraid to question what anyone is saying, and ask questions.
Absolutely. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks again, Dominic. And good luck with everything. And of course, we'll be in touch.
Yeah. Hopefully I can get that course done ASAP.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
right. Cheers. Thanks for listening to another episode of the TriSwim Coach Podcast. If you like this show, consider giving us a 5-star review on iTunes, and we'll read it off on the next show. And to get the latest triathlon swimming tips, tricks, blogs, and podcasts, go to TriSwimCoach.com. See you next time. Until then, befriend the water.